Welcome to Philly Tech Connect podcast, where Philly's tech minds meet. CEOs, developers, dreamers. This is your space. Each week, we explore the journeys of tech innovators. Join us and be inspired.
Hey everyone, Dave here with another episode of the Philly Tech Connect podcast. Today we're speaking with Randy Sean Fisher, the founder and CEO of Startup Investors Lab, a company focused on supporting early stage startups through investment, guidance, and mentorship. With a background in entrepreneurship, business strategy, and investment, Randy works to connect startups with the right resources and investors to help them grow and scale and establish strong business models. Randy, how are you doing today?
I'm great. I'm really grateful to be here. Thank you.
I'm happy to have you. You've been a member of the Philly Tech community for I've really more or less since inception, and I appreciate that you've been very active in the chat and helping out and just sharing your background on customer discovery. You're working on something interesting that I believe is new. It's called Startup Investors Lab. Tell us a little bit about it.
Well, it's really a way to bridge the gap between some of the incubators and accelerator programs to speak to actual investors. And what it is a safe space for startup founders to get advice on their business model, on their revenue model, and on their pitch before they actually engage directly with angels, because you've got one opportunity to make a great first impression, and also to start to begin to build relationships with investors. You're probably not going to get investment on the first go, but you might get it on the third or the fourth. And the angels you talk to, they're connected with other angels, other investors. And so what might not be for them, if they think you have a winning proposition, a great team, you've thought through what you're doing, and you've also done customer discovery, we'll probably get into that a bit later, that would make you a good candidate for them to consider to add to their portfolio or to recommend to other people. So that's what it is.
That sounds great. I love the concept. As I've been more active in the startup community, I've come across a number of pitches and sort of people introducing the startups. And often it is the case that I feel that the business model feels kind of like an underdeveloped part of the discussion. People are always talking about the idea and the size of the market and things that are important, but what's the business model? How is this going to work? And it's not just, $50 a month, subscription. Like there's got to be a little more to it. So, where would you say this fits in to the journey of a founder? Is this something that you should be looking at as day one? Is this after?
Well, you're breaking up, but let me see if I can. Yeah, you've just broken up. So
yeah, I think the editor will kind of do what they do. So don't worry too much about it. As long as you hear the question. Sure.
Yeah,
Let me
didn't
restate
hear
the
it.
question.
Broke up.
Yep. Okay. What I was saying was that I've looked at a number of pitches from different startups in the community, and often it feels like the business model is kind of underdeveloped. People are always spending a lot of time on the idea, on the market validation, but not really thinking about the business model. So I'm glad to see your focus is on that. Tell us a little bit about where in the journey of a founder this program fits in. Is it something that they should be thinking about on day one? Is it after they've done XYZ? Where does it fit in?
Okay, so just to answer that, it would be at any stage, because the business model actually shifts in alignment with what the customers want and what they're willing to pay for, and what you see as scalable in the business. You're absolutely right. The business model, it's not easy. What is easy is doing an analysis of the market, multiplying, and then coming up with a total addressable market and putting that on a slide and saying, whoa, woohoo, let's go. Well, it's quite another to execute and actually implement strategies to get customers that are paying. And if you're having trouble getting paying customers, it could be your pricing, it could be your product, it could be your messaging, it could be your business model. A famous example that I use, and people probably know, is McDonald's. Their business model is not selling hamburgers, it's leases. So leasing the land underneath the restaurant. So the business model needs particular attention. And what we do to prepare the startup founders and also to educate the investors, whether they're accredited or not accredited, is we spend a good deal of time unpacking what the business model is and then looking at different ways that the startup could make money. Are they going after a market that's impossible to attain? Do they have the right people on their advisory board or even on their team that can actually get them into the market? An example might be if they're going after a military market and they have nobody on their team to help them with the military. They're going to fail. So we don't, of course, want them to fail. We appreciate that people spend a lot of time, effort, and money and pursuing their dreams and their passions. And our team, our experts, have a lot of experience in working with different startups in different contexts and sectors. And we give that advice to help the startup shape, his or her offering and then business model. And I'll just say, we just spoke with a startup the other day, and he said that the advice was eye-popping.
Yeah, I don't doubt it. Again,
great.
The business model is just so often kind of overlooked, and it's really the whole support system for the startup. If you don't have a solid foundation, then it's not something you want to scale. You don't want to scale a bad business model. Let's talk a little bit about customer discovery,
Yeah,
because
absolutely. And let me just add a different perspective to that as well. Okay, so these startups are talking to investors. Okay, guess what? These investors have seen this idea 5 or 10 times before. It's not new to them, but what might be new to them is the entrepreneur's thoughtfulness, their diligence in figuring out, in talking to customers, figuring out the pain, identifying aspects of the business model that actually could make sense. And then the investor says, well, hey, I want to get on this horse. I want to help this horse win the race. So, there's a place for passion, but also really, really diving into the business model and, spending more than a couple of meetings trying to figure that out.
Yeah, well said. We've talked, a bit here already about the business model and how important that is. But I know that you have a strong background in customer discovery. That's what I've always, associated with you. Does that fit into the program, and how do you guys approach it?
Okay, well, absolutely. When I'm evaluating an entrepreneur, you can be sure I'm going to ask a customer discovery question. And my customer discovery questions are, okay, you say XYZ about a customer. Who have you talked to? And if I phone them up today, would they tell me the same thing? And that's sometimes when a look of horror comes over the entrepreneur, because they may not have done that level of inquiry to really understand what that customer's pain points are. Okay. And when I use the word customer, I'm not just talking about an individual, but an individual who represents a sector, who represents a group of people who have a particular pain. A lot of time people do customer discovery. The National Science Foundation I-Corps program is a great start, highly recommended. It was developed by Steve Blank. But the thing is that there's two flavors. One is people start doing customer discovery at the outset and then stop once they have a product. Well, guess what? It doesn't stop there. You have to do customer discovery on the product, not just on the business, on the product. And then once you're figuring that part out, then you also have to do it on the marketing and the messaging. Does the messaging, what I'm doing, does it actually work with the customer? Where does it get in the stage of the buyer journey? Okay, so that's one thing. And then the other thing, when startups tell me, oh, I've done customer discovery, I did 100 interviews. Well, the point is not to do 100 interviews. The point is to validate or invalidate assumptions or hypotheses that you have and to change the questions. So a lot of times the entrepreneurs, they validate the same question 100 times over. Total waste of time. Doesn't help anybody, doesn't move the needle. Okay. So, and on the investor side, the investors, a lot of times investors aren't as diligent themselves in evaluating the startup. So we like to educate both the startup and the investor so that they're more prepared and more informed and they can dive more deeply into the discussion because it really is a discussion and a relationship where they can grow together.
Yeah, 100% customer discovery, the way you're describing it, is this iterative, ongoing process that we sort of continue to build on and validate our assumptions and then propose new hypotheses and then continue to validate and invalidate them. And your expertise here, I think, is going to be amazing for the program that you're developing. I know this is a new venture, relatively new. Not to say your background and experience is new, but this particular venture, sure. Where are you guys at, and what are some of the upcoming milestones that we can look forward to?
Okay, well, we have an online community. We have developed a curriculum. We've done a dry run. We've had two startups come through our program. We're recruiting for investors and high net worth individuals to participate. I have been talking to various angel groups to partner with them to, in a sense, provide a pipeline between the accelerator and the angel group to prepare the startups so they can be more ready to be successful at the angel group. We have every month, we'll have we'll have a live presentation of a startup. And the next one is Abraham Ippy of Swiftlane. It's a music royalty app. He's out of the Founder Institute, and we've been working with him to prep him. The Founder Institute has done a great job, and I've been working with Don Samoil, so that's been great. We are looking at these public events as a way of spreading the word about what we do, demonstrating the value, sharing the learning that happens between and with investors and the entrepreneurs. And I can talk to you a little bit about the details in a moment if you like.
Absolutely. Yeah. It sounds like you're well on your way. And I'm curious, with a couple of startups you mentioned that have gone through the curriculum, if you've had any learnings or surprises as part of your own customer discovery journey.
For these, okay, well already I don't want to break confidentiality, but with Swiftlane, for example, we were able to, in the business model discussion. Okay, so let me just explain how it works so everybody understands. Startup comes to us, we have certain criteria. They have to be active in the US market or want to come to the US market. Generally B2B, they could be B2C, but most B2C companies, if they are going to survive, they have to have a B2B play. Any work related, productivity, we'll do health tech. We won't do deep tech. We won't do blockchain because I don't understand it. Cryptocurrency because I don't understand it. Pornography, I understand it, but ethically, I don't like it. So, but actually, talk is a good business model. It's an excellent one, but we don't go there. So they have to meet our criteria. They have to have at least an MVP. And then we make a determination. Do we want to work with them and put them through our system? If it's a yes, then we have two meetings, pre-meetings, we have a pre-screening group where our experts get together with the startup. They pitch to us, and then we talk to them specifically on your video has disappeared. So should I keep going? I guess I will. So I'm waiting for your video. Okay, your video disappeared. So we have 2 pre-screening group meetings. Both are with our experts, and we review the pitch with the founder, and we talk specifically about the business model. And then the second meeting, what they do is they revise their pitch according to what we suggested. They present it to us. We give them additional feedback, and then they incorporate that feedback, and then they're ready to present in the live session. Okay. Now, you asked specifically about what are surprises that have occurred. Well, in the first pre-screening group, what's already happened with Swiftlane is we talked to them. They came to us and they said, well, we've got this app for music royalty tracking. And we said, well, that's nice. But instead of just looking at this as an app, you should look at it as a platform for the collection of royalties, which spans a number of sectors. So that on its own can magnify or amplify the market. Okay, and they could go into adjacent markets and stuff, but they can start initially where they're at, but then grow the platform to adjacent markets. From an investor point of view, the investor, well, of course, I want to invest in something that has more than a single application. So that was a surprise, and that came out of the discussion. Let me just say something else, too, about customer discovery. It's partly about iterating and validating or invalidating your assumptions, but it's also about pivoting. And what often happens is when you get close to the customer, and you start talking to the customer, learning out their pain points, you find a different market or application or desire for a solution that's better than what you've got. And so there's an opportunity to pivot. And that's what customer discovery does. And that's why it's so powerful, because you could be chasing after a tiny market that might get funded initially, but eventually the product, they'll die. Whereas, there are much bigger opportunities.
Hey, Randy.
Your video keeps.
Yeah, we've had a lot of connectivity issues, unfortunately. I think I'm just going to ask you to kind of give us, where people can find you, and we'll see what the editor can do with the situation. Sorry about that. So, Randy, for those who want to get in touch with you.
Okay, well, if you need to do it again. Yeah, if you need to do it again, I'm happy to do it again.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I'll see what type of magic the editor can work, and he'll let us know if it needs to be recorded again or if he has what he can to work with it. But let's give him the ending. So, Randy, for those who would like to get in touch with you, learn more about Startup Investors Lab, where should they go?
Yeah, well, you can come to visit us on our website at startupinvestorslab.com. You can reach out to me directly on LinkedIn. I'm Randy Sean Fisher, the only one in the world. Pretty easy to find. You can connect with me. You can come to one of our monthly events. The next one is September 23rd. There's a link. You can sign up to that on our website. What else? We have a Substack publication. We're just getting that going. But really, reach out to me or reach out to, Dave, because he'll know where to catch me, or Don at Founder Institute.
Awesome. Thanks so much for being on the show, Randy.
Thank you. Pleasure.
That's all for today's episode of Philly Tech Connect. Join our community at phillytechentrepreneurs.com. Special thanks to our sponsor, Shortlist.io, a digital marketing agency specializing in top-notch link building, content strategy, and web design. Stay innovative, Philly, and see you next time on Philly Tech Connect.